Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
Good evening and welcome back to the Asfalt ACC 2024 season. It is round 4 and we are at Valencia for what looks to be an absolutely fantastic day of racing around the bike circuit that we see it in most of all in the real world. So great to see the GTs go around here, and it's going to be a fantastic evening nonetheless of racing. I'm your host Matthew Duffy, joined in the commentary box once again by Ashley Denman, who is joining me live from Denmark. I do believe he's in. So is it Denmark? Am I correct there, Ashley?
Yeah, you got it spot on. Thanks for having me again, though.
It's going to be
always
a
great
brilliant
to
night
be
of
here
racing,
and
isn't it?
watch this. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I apologise. I was just saying it's going to be a brilliant night of action here around this circuit. Small grid with only the 12 cars, but nonetheless going to be fantastic action.
Yeah, it definitely should be. I'm looking forward to it, like I was last week. But hopefully we'll get a bit more overtaking going on here because the circuit is a little bit wider. You've got a lot more runoff area to use. So if you do make a bit of a mistake, you can sort of make up for it, shall we say. But it's still quite precise. You need to make sure you've got your braking zone sorted out, because if you do make a bit of a mistake, you can go into the gravel on some of these corners.
Yeah, indeed you can, and it's very easy to just run that little bit wider, as she says there. And also the track limit warnings are very easy to just go over too much onto that runoff and pick up a couple of warnings or two around this circuit. But it's an interesting one, to say the least. It's going to be a fantastic night of action around this this track. 13 drivers, sorry. Another one's just managed to get into the lobby. We are currently coming towards the end of the hour-long practice session. And this is really going to actually be an interesting one in this championship, isn't it? Because so far, we've seen that... I'm trying to find the championship leader's name. It's on the screen, but I can't actually see it on the timing screen. Is he here tonight? Cruz, though, is probably second place this championship, and he's the one who's we're really going to keep an eye on tonight, see what he can do to come back from Zolder 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, we're looking at the timing town myself. We've got all the normal names that we've seen at the top end of this grid. We've got Norberg in this practice session, as is currently actually at the top. Brenham, Amundsen, Cruz, of course, Solberg also up there pretty close in lap time, even Odegaard. Fernando, to be honest, looking at that timing tower, they're all really close in terms of lap time. So I'm really hoping then for some good racing action. You know, I think the circuit should lend itself really to enable some overtakes.
Yeah, indeed, it should. It should be an interesting night. The problem with this circuit is the corners aren't really sharp enough, are they, to really sort of lunge up the inside. So you have to set up 2 or 3 corners before to really commit to a move up the inside. The way these corners flow a little bit is just going to provide tricky overtaking. But like I said, interesting manoeuvres nonetheless. There's what, 2 or 3 straights around here that you can really get a good run into a few corners. Apart from that, they're flowing and come up pretty quick.
Yeah, you're quite right. I mean, looking at it earlier, sort of having a look at the track where you can sort of potentially make some moves. I mean, you might not think so, but I've got a few corners here in mind. I've got turn 1, 8, 11, 12 and 14. Probably going to be your best chances of an overtake if you're riding on board here with this green McLaren, I believe Fernando is using. We've just gone through turn 12 there. So that's really going to be set up after turn 11. And like you say, I think a lot of these corners, this is going to come down to actually preparing for an overtake rather than sort of just lunging for it last minute potentially in a tighter, sharper corner, because they are a bit more rounded. You really do have to think about it.
And this is where the difference of the next 2 circuits really take place, don't we? We go from here where the corners, you know, a bit more of a flow to them, to the Red Bull Ring where they are a little sharper. You can lunge up that inside and try and make a move or 2 apart from the middle sector. Really 2 different circuits, and especially coming from Zolder 2 weeks ago where, again, completely different track. The other thing to note as well, this week it is the penultimate round of the season, but we are on a double header. We are here today and back next Tuesday for the final race at the Red Bull Ring, which is going to close the end to what has been a fantastic season.
Yeah, it has. I mean, I couldn't really say... I can't really pick anything out where I go, oh, that wasn't quite as good over some other things we've looked at before, but it really has been a good season to watch. Been brilliant to commentate over in places, and it's really produced some good racing action. I'm looking forward to tonight, and I'm even looking forward to moving on to Austria next week, but I'm not going to wish my life away or the race away, because I do want to see some action here.
Yeah, we want to see a lot of action, that is for sure. The Bentley, though, out there on the track at the moment with Solberg coming over the line, currently 6/10 off that pole time. Top 8 separated by just over 8/10. There is, though, 15 minutes left in this practice session, so a lot of work for people to do at the moment.
Yeah, it is practice, so they're obviously just trying to get their eye in here. They're not under that pressure of qualifying just yet, because that's when, obviously, you feel it a lot more. I say that now. I think we're moving on forward.
Yeah, I believe we have just moved on into the qualifying session. So, yeah, gonna be interesting. Is one of the Bentleys leaving the grid, leaving the pit box now? When we are still, I believe, in the no, we are into the qualifying session here. So this is going to be an interesting one to see what the lap times are going to be. Drivers getting out there for a 15-minute qualifying session. This is Peterson in a Lamborghini, who we've not seen. I don't believe a Lamborghini this season, have we? The Lamborghini Huracan Evo 2. And we haven't seen one of them this season, so that's going to be an interesting one to see what he can do around this circuit.
No, I didn't even know there was a Lamborghini in this session, if you like. So no, it's good to see. Nice to see something different. I'm looking forward to that one now, because I had no idea it was there. I'm looking at the year it was made. 2023 is that Lamborghini. So it's actually one of the newer models. And looking at sort of the ballast, it's gained 7 kilograms. So clearly the LMFJ feel that it's got a bit of an advantage if it was just all box stock, if you like. But yeah, it'll be nice to see something different on circuit and see what they can do with it.
Indeed, the BMW that looks like it's the heaviest car. The BMW is the heaviest car, 12 kilograms. The Bentley only loses 14. I'm not sure if the Ford Mustang's back this week. That loses 9. The Mercedes AMG gains 2. The McLaren 720S Evo gains 8. The Ferrari 296 gains 1. So the BMW proving that it is the stronger of the cars, as you'd sort of suggest by the BOP file, sort of giving that heavier weight penalty, meaning that it is probably a bit of an OP car for this circuit, which is why they need to just rein it in a little bit more to try and make that grid a little bit more jumbled up. And we talk about track limits, that may have invalidated the first 2 laps there for Brenham and I believe Norberg just behind. That was a little wide on the exit of turn 1.
I think you're going to be seeing a lot more of that this evening, Rafi. I don't think they would have actually picked up a warning there. I think a lot of the corners actually open themselves up to being like enabled that you can run that wide. You feel like the cars, well, they're not on the circuit, it should be invalid, but I think the way the game works here, you can, as long as you keep it on the rumble strip, I think that's how it's denoted here, kind of like how MotoGP works. I think you're still in the track limits.
Well, let's wait and see as the night goes on, as here is Nordberg. Currently the second man out on track. Bit of a wiggle there as he just dropped a wheel over the outside curb. A little too much curb for him there, and he just had a bit of a moment. Holds on to it well. And we've just seen how tricky this middle part of the lap is. It's left and right constantly. And this section of the circuit here, this little chicane, if you will, very easy, because there you see the curb just dips ever so slightly as the curb ends and then starts again. And that really can upset the car and unsettle a few drivers coming through that bit. I think that's the tricky section for tonight that drivers have got to nail, whether it's make or break their lap time in this qualifying session.
Yeah, you're quite right. It is that infield. I think through 9 to about, well, the final corner is probably the section of circuit you're going to want to keep your eye on most, because 9, 10, 11, very quick sort of chicane, flat out through 9 and 10. But when you get to 11, it's quite hard to spot your braking zone. So keep an eye on that corner for when people are battling with each other. You may see some outbrake themselves.
You may see some outbreak themselves indeed, and that's where we're going to try and maybe look for drivers to make their mistakes or force another driver into an error. As Erdegaardsten there goes up into P3, and Amundsen goes up into P1. Solberg now crosses the line, 3rd place in his Bentley, as Vestergaard then in that Ford Mustang goes into P5. Here is Axelin in that Mercedes-Benz AMG, comes towards the line now. What lap time's he going to post on the board? Only a 32.4, but that hasn't registered as a lap time, so invalidated the lap time somewhere on the lap, would be my guess. Here, though, is Lars Nordberg, and he's had a good season, hasn't he? Let's be honest.
Yeah, he has. He's constantly been fighting for a podium. I mean, if you're going into a season looking for wins, you think, well, podium's not that bad, but I think he really wants to get on that top step at least once. But Brennan really has just been a class of his own in a way, constantly at the top, very clinical. I wonder if he can make it 4 from 4 this evening, because of the way he's been driving, you'd be hard pressed to bet against him, wouldn't you? But looking at it at the moment, Amundsen might be a bit of a challenger this evening. I'll say that, as he's just lost it.
He has just lost it, only by 14 thousandths of a second, though, so you're going to be really keen to keep an eye on what Amundsen does then. Through the final corner comes Alan Drake Cruz, who again, for the young man, was it 12 years of age, 13 years of age, I believe it was, has impressed so far this season. It goes within half a tenth of Brenham there, then towards the line as well. Somebody's just gone into P7. No, nobody's gone into P7, apologies. It's Erdegaard now goes into P7. But Cruz has really impressed, hasn't he? Youngster took the fight in race 1 back where was we in race 1? Was it Nürburgring? I'm not quite sure now, but he really had a great start to the season. It was Brandt Hatch, thank you. Really great start to the season. Fought for the pole really hard. Fought really hard in the race. Lost it in the pit stops. And has kind of been on the back foot since Brandt Hatch, hasn't he? Hasn't really had that pace to challenge for that race win or that pole position again since Brandt. Or not as close, should I say, as what he was at Brandt.
Yeah, you're quite right there. Not as close, but he's still there. He's been hovering around and still been fighting for those podiums. So he's very much still in this. I think he is going to be second in the championship. Haven't actually done the maps, but I'm pretty sure he is there. As we look here to Pettersson, he's just about rounding the final corner. Going to finish off his first flying run. Let's see what this Lamborghini can do then. Where's he going to put it? 10th, oh, 9th, sorry.
Yeah, up into 9th place. 1.8 off the pole as Brennan finds a bit more time as well. Just goes over half a tenth clear of Amundsen. Fernando in the McLaren goes up into P4. Top 6 separated by 7/10 of a second. And looking at the timing screen in front of us, it is a pretty close qualifying for them drivers. As Cruz there, we're saying that he hasn't been close enough to the back of Brenham since Brands Hatch. He's now in front and goes in front by just over a 10th. Cruz now really keen to get on with this one here at Valencia today.
Yeah, he's trying to silence the haters. Those being us, I think. But yeah, no, brilliant stuff to take that provisional pole ahead of Brenham. And looking forward into the race, I will say, it's so close at the top there. A lot of cars, just a couple of tenths really between, a couple of hundredths really. I'm really hoping that this is going to be great racing action, and the circuit, like I said earlier, should lend itself. There is a couple of these corners, I think side-by-side action, very much doable, and you shouldn't lose too much time, so that should hopefully encourage some of these drivers to really go for it.
It should hopefully encourage them, yes, you're right, and yeah, hopefully these drivers can just try and find it. And this is one of them circuits, actually, that you see, every lap you seem to gain that bit more confidence every time you seem to go around it. Just being able to push that little bit more and find where the limit is, don't you? It's kind of got that feel to it, this circuit.
Yeah, it's a confidence circuit, like you just said. I think you're quite spot on the money, to be honest with that, because, yeah, you're constantly making sure you've got to get the braking zones right, and once you know where that limit is to begin with, you can then start to just push it that little bit further, of course, ultimately making sure you don't go over the limit, because then you will be off. But yeah, it just lap after lap, you should be improving, really.
But you then have the counter argument to that is, if you're a bit too cautious, a bit too wary of trying to push them limits and extend, just find that bit of time, that's where you're going to lose a lot of time, isn't it?
Yeah, you're quite right. Again, it's one of those things. It's tricky to judge, but that's what drivers do best out there. They find the limits and push the car to them and make sure they don't go over at the same time. And that's, gives them that consistency as well. Far exceeding the performance I could ever do out there, I can tell you that.
Well, at the moment, Solberg has just managed to get himself into the top 5, so not a bad lap from the Bentley at the moment. And the Bentleys here, with that minus ballast at the moment, really seem to be having a decent run of it at the moment, don't they? They really seem to be in a little groove as Nordberg moves up into P4. We're watching Brenham come towards the line now, and this is going to be an interesting one as he comes toward the line, currently just over a 10th off the back of the pole. Now, drivers you would have seen have gone back to the pit lane and are going to try and come back out. Now, what that is possibly, one, fill the car up with a bit more fuel, get some more fuel in the car as you're running as low as fuel as possible. The other one is get a set of tyres, because I'm just quickly reading through sort of like the rules and regulations of the server limits. I don't see anywhere that tyres are limited. You can limit tyres on this game. I believe the default is 50 sets of tyres. Crucial, if you have no limit on the tyres, halfway through the session, maybe get back in the pits, get that tank of fuel filled up for what's left of qualifying, fresh set of boots on the car, away you go.
Yeah, what you're telling me there is just have at it. go like mad.
For all, yeah, free for all. I know other ACC channels where they've limited to tyre sets, like 15 tyre sets from the start of when the lobby gets reset to the end of whatever the last race is. So you think we've had an hour practice, we've had the 15-minute qualifying session, we've got an hour's race. If you can only use 4 sets of tyres in that session, let's say, you've got to really be careful for what you're doing through the practice session and the qualifying session. Here, from what I'm reading, I don't see a limitation on tyres, so it is really free-for-all on tyre sets, and you may as well try and use as many tyre sets in qualifying as you can. Fresh rubber, get that grip, get that fastest time, especially as that track's rubber in every second.
Yep, exactly. So I'd be doing the exact same. I can't see a downside to why you wouldn't, but there we go. We'll see what the drivers decide to go for. But here's Axel rounding turn 14, going for the run up towards the start-finish line. Let's see what this lap is going to be. Currently 10th position, 1.3 seconds down. Does he improve?
No, I don't believe
maybe he's just starting one.
Yeah, maybe he's just
someone.
Well, apologies about the time screen on the screen as well. We do believe there are 12 drivers in the lobby, not the 13 that it is saying. So nobody is missing from P11. We do believe it is 12 drivers in the lobby. So nobody is 13th. We believe that Nielsen is P12. Back though on board with Amundsen, who is currently only 0.182 off the back of Cruz. It is so tight between them top 4. It is unbelievable. This could go any way with a couple of minutes left in this session.
Yeah, you're right, it could. Yeah, the top 4, but even Fernando, Solberg, Odegaard, they're, all right, 3 tenths back, but nail a corner just a little bit better, you can pick up 3 tenths just like that, no problem at all. So I wouldn't even count those guys out, because they really are just within that catchment of potentially taking away some positions from the front guys that have been up there week in, week out, but they're not a million miles away.
No, they're not a million miles away at all, and this is where it's going to make for fascinating qualifying at the moment and see who can do what. Amundsen and Nordberg there, then crossing the line, not improving on their lap time, so whether they invalidated a lap or they're going for one now as Brennan goes to the top of the timing sheets by 12 thousandths of a second. That is absolutely incredible from Brennan. Just when you think you're starting to look at the end of the session thinking nobody's really finding an improvement, Brennan manages to once again eke out a little bit more time. What now, though, is Cruz's response? That is fantastic from the BMW driver.
Yeah, that's going to be crucial now, is can he respond? It is crunch time. You're getting into the last 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes of qualifying here. You've probably only got a lap, maybe 2 at most, to really put in your best lap time, exploit all the limits you can, of course keeping it within the rules. Here comes Cruz up to the line. Let's see if he has a response. What's it going to be?
No improvement to 29.992, so not enough there for Cruz to do anything, but crucially he'll get 1 if not 2 more flying laps on the board. And now does anybody have an answer for Brennan's lap time? There you see him just dipping down towards the apex of turn 2, using all that runoff. You've seen the gravel on that outside line there. Left, stay on the curb as tight to the left as you can, flick it back to the right. You've got then another right-hander coming up pretty quickly, and this is really the difficulty of this circuit. You've got to set them up. Them corners here, you've got to set up for maybe a look into this corner here coming into the race. Amundsen, though, improves. He's done a 30.012, and he's now gone within just under a tenth and a half.
Yeah, you're right there about the corners. You're setting up one after the other because it flows so well and nice like that. You need to be thinking almost 2 corners ahead. You can't be looking at the one you're doing now. You've got to be lining up the next one whilst you're in your current one, and it's pretty much like that throughout the entire middle sector here until you get out of this corner, turn number 11, towards turn 12, where you can sort of switch off a little bit, but you're still making sure you pick your braking zones. Look at him using all of that curb and then some, really, isn't he? Almost clipping the gravel as he goes through it.
Yeah, he is. He's not afraid here of his Cruz at the minute, and he is really pushing the limits. This is a tricky corner to get right on the brakes. Manages to keep it onto the apex, use all that runoff on the exit, and he does so. The bonus is he might just be picking up a little bit of slipstream off of the car in front. He's going to get one more flying lap in. Cruz to the line, manages to find 600ths of a second there, and with 1 qualifying lap left in him, has he got enough, or has he done enough to take that pole position? But Brennan, now it's back to you, because what can you do?
Yeah, all eyes back on Brennan, pressure on his shoulders. Let's see if he can soak it up like he has time and time again. I think, where is he now? About turn, I think this might be turn 11 now. Yeah, through turn 11. So he's got the final sector coming up. Important braking zone here, because turn 12, you need a good exit because you're running it down, well, round 13, down to 14. Looked a little wide, didn't it? I don't think it's going to scrub too much time off, though.
I don't think he's going to have lost too much there, but has he just lost enough as he comes around the final corner for what will be his final qualifying laps? With Cruz is on an improvement again. Brennan needs to hope that this one's a good one. To the line comes Brennan now. Does he find anything? He does improve, but only finds a couple of thousandths of a second there. It will not be enough, and Brennan has taken the checkered flag. Cruz, though, is still on a qualifying lap, but let's not count out this man, Amundsen, still in with a shout of this pole position, as is Solberg down in 6th. He's only half a second to find. The other 3 are in the pits of Brennan, Nordberg and Fernando. So what can Amundsen do here as he's now about to approach the final corner? What a qualifying session this has been. If the race is as good as qualifying is going to be, it's going to be absolutely fantastic. But Cruz leaving it late, and Brennan had no response.
Yeah, it's almost a psychological win there as well for Cruz, because he's finally back on pole position since Brands Hatch. So it's going to need to nail the start, stay ahead of Brennan, and then that might put him on the back foot, potentially open the door to some of these guys behind, because we've got Amundsen here still finishing his lap off. Let's see if he can improve. He's right on it in terms of pace. Norberg also right there in terms of pace. He won't improve as Solberg does improve. And now look at that. There's 5 cars pretty much within, well, a blink of an eye.
Oh, and all that build-up, and Armidson's drove into the pit lane, maybe to test the pit lane limits out. Here comes Erdegaard. He's also decided to return to the pit lane. So that is the end of your qualifying session. A bit of a premature end to that qualifying session. That whole build-up of Armidson trying to find a 10th for him to return to the pits. But it's Cruz who takes pole position. And what a job that young man has just done. I tell you what, we've literally just said he hasn't sort of been able to have that as much pace as Brennan since Brands Hatch. How wrong was I in that qualifying session?
Well, we were dead wrong, weren't we? He's made us eat our hat. It's kind of how it feels.
Brilliant.
Because,
if I remember rightly, didn't
drive?
he say last week that he actually enjoyed the Valencia circuit? So
I want to say yes. I think he did.
Somebody did say that, and I believe it was Cruz.
Yeah, I think you could be right. I do remember a couple of drivers out there also saying that they haven't raced around here at all. So they've literally had a few weeks. I mean, a few weeks you can achieve a fair bit, but at the same time, brand new circuit to them. You don't know how much time they do have free to be able to practice. It's quite impressive that they're right on it with the lap times, pretty much the whole field.
Oh, it's massively impressive how good they're on it with the lap times, and this is what's going to be fantastic. If I had to get you to pick a race winner, who are you going to give me? What shout are you going to go for? Because I think I've got one. We'll see if it's the right one.
I mean, statistic-wise, you've got to go for Brenham, haven't you? Like lap time, consistency, it's hard to bet against him, and he's right up there still. He's only second on the grid. He's front row still. If he gets a good launch, he could even be taking the lead in towards turn 1, 2. I think it's going to come down to the start here. If he can get a good launch away, maybe even get in front, he can control this race at his own pace. I think he'll just make it look easy almost again. However, I don't want to bet against him, but it'd be nice to potentially see him have a bit more of a challenge here. And Cruz is doing just that by taking pole.
He is doing just that by taking pole, and I'm going to go the way of Cruz. Going to go a little different, seeing as you've gone Brenham then. We'll try and not pick the same man. But you are completely right with what you say. It is hard to look past the man who's won every race so far this season. Looked pretty comfortable. Cruz, though, fantastic pole position. Take nothing away from what he's just achieved there. This is going to be a fantastic race. If you're wondering what is the situation at the moment, why they just sat there on the grid, why is nothing happening, they're in a little phase at the moment where they will be going through a period of making sure their setup is fine and sorted and ready to go for the race with the correct fuel and the correct tyres. You wouldn't want to be on a worn set of tyres. So this is hopefully where they want to be looking at, making sure everything's absolutely spot on. You do not want a mistake here. What we'll then get is a full green flag lap. We'll get the full formation lap underway. And you can tell who's still possibly sorting setup out. Nobody is, because we've just gone. But if you've seen the cars drop as if they've been lowered off a jack, that's when they're out the setup screen, ready to press drive and confirm that they are going. Nobody's returned to the pits, which means everybody's hit the ready button. We go on the formation lap. Cruz and Brenham on the front row of the grid yet again. What a season this has been. It's coming to a sad end, really, because this has been a fantastic championship. Well worth the watch. Well worth tuning in for, because it's been so good, hasn't it, all season? But sadly, we're at the penultimate round, and let's hope for another absolute cracker.
Yep, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I just maybe would like to think that the BMWs would be maybe brought back just a touch, because once again they are top 4, showing that car is top dog. But apart from that, you can't really take anything away from this series. I wish it was longer, if anything. That's the only thing I would say. That's the one downside. It's not long enough. Yeah,
no, I completely agree with you, and you are right. The BMW, like you said earlier, in towards the end of free practice, that the Lamborghini being one of the newer cars. I believe the BMW is, along with the McLaren Evo, the Ferrari 296, and the Porsche 992, which we've not been able to see a Porsche on the grid this season, sadly. But the BMW, one of the newer cars, I believe 2020, maybe 2021. Fantastic car. Bit of an all-round car, and I think you've seen its all-round ability, haven't you, this season?
Yeah, it seems to have suited most circuits, hasn't it? I mean, the thing I'm going to be looking forward to tonight is that run from the final turn down to turn number 1, 650 meters. I'd love to see that Bentley or even that Ford have a good run at it against his rivals, because that could be spicy down towards turn 1.
Last time I did a broadcast on this circuit, the Ford Mustang won the race. So you never know. You never know what could happen. Stranger things have happened. But it is a BMW 1, 2, 3, 4. Then it is a Bentley and a McLaren. They now are being told to line up double file. What they'll be getting on their screen is a little display. They have to stay within the green area of that display. If they're too far in front, too far behind, they will be given a drive-through penalty. Shortly after the final corner, as they exit that, they'll be given a different display on their screen. It'll tell them to stay within a certain kilometres or miles per hour. Again, they have to keep that in the green. Anything over that, they'll get a drive-through for speeding or being too slow at the start. And that's where you have to nail it, because for the penultimate time, we are here at Valencia and about to go green. And who is going to get the best start? The Lamborghini, you see there bringing up the rear, but it's the BMWs out front. We now go green here at Valencia, and it looks a decent start from one of the Bentleys in the background, who pulls into the middle of the road trying to make up places. It is even Stevens down in towards turn 1. Cruz just having the edge, and here comes Amundsen up the inside of Brenham as they all filter through turn 1. Nice and cleanly through, still side by side for Amundsen and Brenham here. And Brenham looks like he could lose out to Amundsen coming up through turn 2 into wall 3 now. Just drops a wheel into the gravel. Amundsen through squeaky clean. Brenham might have a look up the inside, but he's not got the run as close as he would want to. But perfect from Cruz. And now look at Fernando attacking one of the Bentleys already at the start of this race. Great start here in Valencia. And Brenham looks like he possibly losing out another place here to Nordberg. He just doesn't look comfortable on this opening lap.
No, he does not. Cruz got his crucial getaway and made sure he covered off Brenham. And out of the exit of 2 we saw there, Brenham just couldn't quite get the line he wanted. He ran it wide, and that opened the door for Amundsen, who obviously took the position very happily indeed. But yeah, Nordberg's on his back. We've got these two here. Solberg, Fernando still going at it side by side now through turn 11. Solberg might do the up and under. I think he's going to go for it. They're still side by side and on the exit. Now towards 12, this is a bit of a kink almost. Yeah, Solberg sensibly, I think, backs out of that one, live to fight another day. And I'm sure we will see them fight another day indeed.
Yeah, indeed they will. That was an absolutely fantastic battle from the McLaren and the Bentley, and I don't think that's done. Watch for the Bentley coming out down this start straight. Has a bit of power, loses that bit of weight around here as well, so watch for Fernando possibly coming under pressure from that Bentley. But it is Cruz who crosses the line in the lead of this race from Amundsen, then Brenham, Nordberg, Fernando, Solberg, Erdegaard, Stern, Westergaard, Petson, Axelen and Nielsen in the background. Then where's the Bentley and the McLaren? He didn't actually get close enough there looking in the background. This down with Erdegaard then has the other Bentley of Westergaard right behind him. Great to see some Bentleys out there on the circuit, and they've got the Ferrari 296 of Erdegaard just in front. One of the Ferraris, you see the Lamborghini have a twitch coming out the corner. All pretty much line of stern at the moment. Little gaps just starting to appear. Nobody really close enough to make a move, and already we're seeing that Lamborghini just struggle a little bit. I think it dropped a wheel in the gravel. No, it still managed to stay in front of the Mercedes. Looking on board then from the bonnet of that beefy Ford Mustang of Westergaard towards Erdegaard then as they come towards the end of lap 2 in this race. It's been an absolute cracking start to this one.
Yeah, no, not quite towards him, right in the middle here. Turn number 8, and now we've got 9, 10, 11 coming up, so right in the centre. Yeah, not far away, Matthew. Either way, battle's still happening all over the circuit. People just finding their rhythm as we settle into this race. Brenham, though, he's not quite managed to regain what he lost at the start there. It's settled down, but the gap is still there. Interesting one to watch. He might be going for a bit of a safer tyre wear strategy, if you like.
Well, for the viewers at home that are new to watching this this series today, the pit window opened after the first minute. It closes with a minute left of the race. They can refuel, and I believe it's 25 seconds stationary. Yes, it's 25 seconds stationary on their fixed fuel time, so they have to wait. The question now is, what will happen if people have lighter fueled or heavier fueled? That's going to be the biggest question that will be able to answer later in the race. Nielsen has entered the pit lane already, so hopefully he's not going to be a retirement and he manages to get back out on circuit. But Fernando at the moment, he got past the Bentley of Solberg and he's now looking to head after Norberg at the moment. He's looking pretty racy in that mint green and black McLaren then, but Cruz at the moment, well, he's doing the business and Brenham doesn't have an answer to Armandson or Cruz at the moment. It's pretty line of stern out front. They seem to be matching each other quite well, these three.
Yeah, these front three, once again, fighting for the podium. I kind of expected it in a way because they have been showing their class so far all season long. Now riding on board here, looking over or under the rear wing of Cruz. Armandson's just about holding the gap about the same. Pretty steady, isn't it? Nothing changing too much. But they do seem to be slightly pulling away from Norberg in 4th, and then of course back a little further to Fernando in that green McLaren. I noticed he had the Spanish flag on the rear wing, so I wonder if there's a little bit of a home advantage potentially for him.
Well, potentially so. Let's see what he can do in this race if it is home advantage for him. I'm sure he'd be loving to come out of this one with a great result as Armandson then looking on the back of Cruz a little bit here, and they come in towards turn 1 and he had a look on the outside, not really the place to be making a move, but Armandson now putting the leader under a bit of pressure. Brenham's coming with him as well. Brenham's looking to tuck underneath that of Armandson, who just ran a little wide of the apex as he closed up to Cruz under the braking. Now through 3 and towards 4 they come, and the top 3 all of a sudden, what was last lap, which looked like it was pretty much matching each other, Brenham looks like he's got the hurry up, and Armandson's giving Cruz the hurry up as well.
Yeah, this is the thing when you try and go side by side. It does take a little bit of time off your lap, even though it's probably not all that much around here, but it is enough, especially when you've got someone barreling down right up underneath your rear bumper. That gap will close in an instant. Brenham just showing that really by looking at the footage here. Loving the camera angles as well, we'll say that. But yeah, Brenham right back in this because those two out front, Cruz, Armandson, just having a little bit of a look, and it's caused them to concertina and back up into each other.
Has, and this is what this track is going to provide us. One little dip of a wheel into the gravel and you're going to be right back onto each other. Nielsen still in the pit lane, 2:21 though, so he has crossed the line again, so I'm not sure what's happening to Nielsen there. So we're down to the 11 cars on the circuit at the moment, and Armandson still with Cruz as he looks to close back up under the braking. Once again you see that Armandson looks a little more confident on the brakes. Down through the final corner they come to start yet another lap. 6 minutes gone of this hour-long race, and already you have to say that Cruz is doing a good job at the moment, but the pressure is there, and it's how he's going to soak up that pressure I think is going to be key in this race.
Well, I mean, if he's going to replicate what he did at Brands Hatch, then soaking up the pressure will be no problem for him, because we saw him on that occasion have a good battle with Brennan for the win. It was a shame that he couldn't sort of hold him off in the latter stages. As we look back here to Westergaard, having a little look on the Bentley in front is the Ford. Odegaard's going to have to do his best defensive work, making the way through turn number 4 and now getting through to 5. A bit difficult to overtake in this middle sector, not really a good chance of doing it. What you want to do is nail the exit here of 6 and try and get alongside towards turn 8 at the end of this little straight.
And this is the problem with this circuit. You've got 3 or 4 straights, I think we said earlier, where you can really have a look, and you have to set them up, as we said, corners before. And you said it a moment ago on the formation lap. Set them up 2 or 3 corners. Learn the track. The thing for Vestergaard here, it might be a case of sit there for 2 laps, look at where Erdegaardston is weaker than him in areas. Right, okay, I can set him up through this whole section of the circuit. I know there's a straight coming up. Get the job done there. He's in the Ford Mustang. It is beefy. It is, I think, the most powerful car on this grid that we have, then followed by probably the Bentley. So it's going to be an interesting one, to say the least. Looking at top 3 though, 7/10 of a second. Also Norberg's just bringing that gap under a second as they all, look at that, 134, 130.4, 130.4, 130.4. Norberg just a couple of tenths off the back of that, as here comes the Bentley of Solberg, who was a little quicker, 3 tenths than Fernando last time around. Whoa, we're getting a bit out of shape coming through turn 1, and you just saw the car hop over that curb a little bit. He didn't hit that quite right.
No, he didn't, but he managed to hold on to it, and that's the important thing. And I'm looking at his last lap time as well. He matched Norberg in front of him. And so by that, I would say Fernando's maybe holding him up slightly. if he can get past him, maybe he can get onto the back of the front four, because then that would be very interesting if we can get a Bentley in the mix amongst those BMWs. We'd love to see it. Solberg's been known for going for the odd strategy, so I wonder if we'll see that again today from him.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race to see what Solberg can do. Looks like he's got a bit more pace here. This is the strongest I think we've seen the Bentley look at this opening stage of the race. As now you've got 4 for the league. Nordberg says he's a second and a half behind. That has to be behind the leader, because he's not a second and a half behind that of Brenham. Interesting that Brenham's not able to... We've seen at Zolder and other races where he's had the outright pace and has just disappeared. Here, he doesn't have the outright pace. Cruz, Armstrong and Nordberg are really, really putting the fight to Brenham. This could help Cruz in this championship if Brenham doesn't finish on the podium.
Yeah, if he doesn't finish on the podium and actually does maybe, 4th, 5th, something like that, it could open the championship right back up again into this final race of Austria next week. It really does come down to how this pans out. It's too early to call. We're not even 10 minutes gone. So, give it time. We'll see how things unfold. But for the minute, Cruz where he wants to be. Armstrong, in between them, taking points off Brenham as well. He's looking good at the second.
It's looking good at this moment in this race. Who is going to come out on top? That's going to be the biggest question. Is through the middle sector they come now, and this is where it's going to get really tight. Not really a chance to overtake through this part, like Ashley said a moment ago. Set them up through this corner, maybe get that run down towards turn 6, and we are seeing 4 for the lead here. I reckon you're going to get Solberg on the back of this if he can clear Fernando. I think he's got the pace of these front runners at this stage of the race. The other thing to mention as well, tyres last roughly an hour on this game, so is there a bit of time management going on here from the leaders to have that fresher rubber? We've seen at times drivers pit, possibly round 2 of the season, they pitted, one of the drivers pitted early, put a fresh set of rubber on. I believe it was the Bentley, wasn't it? And he was rapid at the end, but just ran out of time because he made 1 or 2 mistakes.
Yeah, I think that was one of the Bentleys. It's hard to remember everything, but I think you're pretty much bang on. As we look here on board with Fernando, with that closing Bentley behind. Brilliant bright blue. Down the long straight then, this could be a chance for that Bentley. Solberg in the slipstream of the McLaren. Is he going to have enough forward momentum and grunt to pull alongside towards turn 1? I don't think it's going to be here. A good turn 1 though, and you do have a chance up towards turn 2. But even then, I think that McLaren seems to be pretty quick in a straight line. He's struggling to really get alongside him in that Bentley, isn't he, Solberg?
Doesn't seem to be a slouch as McLaren. Just had a bit of a slide coming through that turn 2 exit in towards 3, now into 4. Interesting to see the different lines through this track. And that's another thing to point out. Drivers may be taking slightly different entries or exits to corners here. Given the fact that this is mainly a bike circuit for the MotoGPs, drivers' lines are going to be slightly different, aren't they? Not massively, but you're going to just notice a different entry or exit into a corner.
Yeah, ever so slightly, but I think that's just opening up to driver style as well, because everyone is slightly different. Not everybody follows the same rule of thumb. And so that's when you get differences in sort of personalities really in people's driving. Yeah. And I think that's what just adds to the sport and makes it such a spectacle that it is. Because no one's the same, and with those differences, you do get some brilliant on-track action.
You do get some brilliant on-track action as we are coming into the... is this a chicane towards the end of the lap? Indeed it is. This is with Erdegaardsten then, who's just off the back of Erdegaard, just ahead of him. And not quite close enough at the moment. He's clear of Vestergaard then. So Vestergaard and Axelin a little down. The Mercedes doesn't look overly strong here, does it? We've seen Axelin in recent weeks really start to be in that mid-pack fight and have some decent pace, but around here that Mercedes-Benz doesn't look a great car for this track. Nordberg dropping off this front 4 or the front 3 pack now, and also Cruz just looks like he's been able to extend that gap a little bit over Armstrong, so maybe just getting back into a rhythm if he had 1 or 2 mistakes earlier which allowed them to get onto the back. But still 3 for the lead. It's within a second between the top 3. Still anybody's game in this race at the moment, still with just over 45 minutes left in this to go.
Yeah, last lap Alan Drake Cruz still the fastest of them, just by a couple of tenths. But that is obviously enough at the moment, no issues for them. Amundsen, Brennan pretty much even. Really can't separate them by much, and then Norberg just a couple of tenths off of these guys out front. just struggling to maintain the pace of them. But again, that could come down to tyre strategy. He might just be looking after his tyres that little bit more. We just saw briefly the Mercedes, and here's Pettersson in that Lamborghini, which is nice to see something different. Another blue coloured car with a nice silver stripe there. A little bit different.
Yeah, it does look a little bit different. Like I say, great to see the Italian Lamborghini on the track. Great to see Nielsen as well come back out the pits. Yes, he's 3 minutes 57 down, but track time is key on this Assetto Corsa Competizione. So you really want to make sure you've got that track time, and hey, it could work for possible future series that he has in store or coming up. Back to the leaders then. Down towards turn 1 they come again, and Brenham just looks like he's starting to get a little bit closer. He was only 5 thousandths quicker than Armstrong on the last lap. These front 3 are just matching each other lap after lap here. It is brilliant to see from the front 3, and there we see Brenham just trying to get closer to Armstrong, as Axel now looks like he's possibly still getting into that rhythm of the Valencia circuit, as lap after lap he seems to be improving at the moment.
Yep, certainly seems to be. But that's all you really need to be doing. As we said earlier, it's a confidence circuit is sort of what it boils down to. As you go further and further into the race or into the session, you do bring up that confidence level. You brake later, maybe turn in a bit earlier or later, depending on what the corner demands. And obviously that lap time will come down in accordance to it. Looking on front forward, from Brenham, BMW into turn 11. As I was saying earlier, that tricky braking zone can quite easily miss it and potentially run a bit wide, but all these guys nailing it. And now turn 12, quite an important one really. You want to try and use as much of the curb as possible. It does unsettle the car, but it is the fastest line, because 13 here, the long sweeping left-hander, and into 14, it's long enough that it does make a difference.
It does make a difference, and like you say, it really sets you up, doesn't it, for start-finish straight, and you need a good run out of it to make sure you do it. But one thing I noticed about the last corner is it does kind of dip halfway through the corner. So as you come to the apex, it just kind of has a little dip through it. So tricky to make sure you don't get that wrong. The Bentley's pulling out now on Fernando coming down the start-finish straight. Just not... Like, McLaren's got enough, hasn't it, in a straight line, that the Bentley is either not getting a good enough exit out the final corner or just doesn't have enough up the inside of turn 2. No, has a look, but thinks better of it. Either the Bentley's not got enough in the straight line, or the McLaren's getting a better exit out the final corner and has enough just to fend off the Bentley at the moment.
I think it could be the latter there. I think the McLaren's just getting the exits where he needs to, and it's just not allowing Solberg to get alongside to make a move. So he's probably getting a little frustrated. You can see that he's weaving from behind the McLaren, just showing his face in the mirrors. Yeah. I am here. I want to get past. But Fernando's doing everything he needs to at the moment to keep him behind. So fair play to him, because in terms of racecraft, that's brilliant stuff. Because he has held him up now for quite a few laps, and there's not really much to separate them.
No, there's not really much to separate them at all. And this is where it's going to be an interesting stage of this race, isn't it? In terms of what Solberg can do to get past. Because I think personally he's got that pace to be running with Nordberg, if not possibly, depending on what Cruz is doing, maybe looking at a podium. Jeez, he looked a little sideways coming out the corner there, and that's going to hurt him. That's what he doesn't need to do at this stage of the race. He just needs to keep his cool and keep it going.
Yeah, that cost him big time. He's just probably lost a little bit of concentration there from following the car in front, maybe missed his braking zone ever so slightly, run it deep, and just like that, you've lost all the momentum. And like I said earlier, that long sweeping left of 13 is long enough that it does make a difference if you do mess up 12 a little bit. And we just saw exactly that happen for Solberg. But here with Udegaard's doing, still 8th position, right behind Udegaard. Not much happening between these guys. They're sort of trading lap times, aren't they? Sort of one up, one down, and sort of pretty much keeping the similar gap. But he's still in this race, still positions to be had should anything happen. And yeah, he's looking good.
He is looking good at the moment, and yeah, he's having a good race. He's there, isn't he? And that's what Odegaard doesn't need at the moment, is he's still there being a bit of a nuisance. They're not really in the fight with Solberg, but they are well clear of Axel for that 7th and 8th position. Back to the front of the grid though, Cruz is managing this absolutely to perfection. You cannot say anything else other than what a job Cruz is doing at the moment, because he is putting on an absolute blinder so far. He's not really defending either, is he, from Amundsen? That's the other thing to maybe talk about, is he's still racing his lines. He's not driving defensive. We see defensive driving causes then maybe the lap times to fall off. You know, mistakes start to creep in. What Cruz is doing is driving his line, racing his race. This is his speed that he wants to go at. He's making Amundsen attack him, not him defend from Amundsen.
Yeah, I think that's kind of how the circuit lends itself, though, because you want to be on the racing line. Of course, that is the fastest way around the circuit. But the crucial thing here, if you do go for that defensive line, because all of the corners flow into one another, you're actually having a concertina effect, because you're not affecting just one corner to defend. You're actually affecting probably the next three.
Yeah.
So it really does cost you. So it doesn't make sense to defend. If they want to go for a move, they're actually going to compromise themselves more than you are by just taking your normal line. So yeah. I think, to be honest, Cruz is doing exactly what he needs to, and the best way to defend is to just drive normally.
Yeah, the best way to defend is to drive normally, and he's doing just that at this stage of the race. And yeah, let's see what he can do. There's still a long way to go, still 40 minutes to go, and we've had no pit stops at the moment, so let's not forget that.
Yeah, that will come into play. Of course, the strategy with some maybe go for an undercut or an overcut, that remains to be seen. We tend to see people start pitting in around about in the next 5 minutes or so, and then that will go on for the next sort of 10-15. That tends to be the typical pit window for these guys. Pretty good exit out of 12 there for Cruz, now through 13 towards 14. Brenham just dropping off a little bit at the back there, but I think that is all good and no problem. Like I say, it's all a bit of give and take with these guys. One lap you might be slightly slower, the next lap, you'll be slightly quicker and close that back in.
And the thing to note as well, Norberg just not able to stick with them at this stage of the race. He's just dropped off the back. Now, what has happened to Solberg? Because he's actually came more into the clutches. So has he made one or two mistakes more? He's got into the clutches now then of Ødegaard and Ødegaard in this race at the moment. And this now is going to be a crucial part of the race for him if he can manage to stay ahead or get back onto the back of Fernando. He's had great pace earlier on, but not at the moment. He's not been able to do so. So going to be an interesting one to say the least. But yeah, we're just going to have to keep our eyes on what happens with Solberg at the moment. Amundsen's within 0.2 of a second of Cruz. The timing screens are saying so. How close is Amundsen now to that of the back of Cruz? There he is. They've gapped Brenham a little bit, so they've managed now to just put a bit of daylight between the top two and Brenham. Or is this the top two starting to pull away slightly?
Oh, I don't know. It's tough to call. I don't think so. I think this is just sort of a little bit of a relaxing moment in this race. Brenham may be dropping back, just giving his tyres a little bit of a breather. I think that's also potentially what's happened to Solberg. He's been attacking Fernando, and maybe just put too much sort of heat and wear into those tyres, and now has to drop back, and it's now probably going to cost him. But I think this is Brenham just managing things. I don't really think he's out of it yet. If anything, he's just closed that gap ever so slightly in that final corner alone.
Yeah, he has indeed. So let's see what he can do then going through this next stage of the lap. Just looking at the lap times, yeah, it was actually a tenth quicker than Cruz and a little bit quicker than Amundsen just in front of him. Norberg as well, gaining a bit of time. That one was a little wide there for Amundsen. That could have been just a little track limits warning. Not a strike against his name, but a warning. Remember, 3 strikes. Your 4th strike is drive-through penalty territory. I believe we saw 1 or 2 of them, didn't we? Last time out at Zolder, a few drive-through penalties there. Now, because of Amundsen's mistake through turn 1, Brenham is right hot on his heels, and Cruz has a bit of daylight between him. This is what Cruz wants. This is what Cruz needs, is for the drivers behind to make the mistakes while he's driving at his pace.
Yeah, absolutely. And if Amundsen can actually hold Brenham behind, this could even bring Norberg back into it, and then you might see a freeway battle for second down to 4th rather than for the win. But let's see how this unfolds. We've got a few more corners left of the lap. Brenham and Amundsen. Brenham's not made his move just yet. Hasn't quite shown his hand. Looking wide into 11. Going to try and maybe go under. I don't think he's going to have it on the exit. It's going to be tricky to get alongside here. But you can see there, he's lining him up. He's trying to maybe make a move here on Amundsen.
Yeah, massively so. He's definitely having a look left and right and wondering where he can get past. Maybe just as well to throw Amundsen off. Breaking into that final corner. He once again closes under, braking to the rear bumper then of Amundsen. How was his exit? Little twitch on the front of Brenham's car there. I don't think he's got the exit he wanted. I think Amundsen set up pretty well on the straights, to be fair, because he gapped a little bit and Brenham's not really reeling him in. I think Armundsen's doing all right in a straight line.
Yeah, that could just be how he set the car up as he goes, whoa, a bit wide there. That might cost him now into 2 here of doing. Although he might get away with it. Like we said earlier, that runoff do get a bit of leeway with your racing lines. He'll definitely pick up a strike though, I'm sure. But Brenham's still right on that rear bumper, not giving him an inch of breathing room and definitely keeping the pressure on. This is going to be whether Amundsen is going to crack under it or prevail and hang on to that second place.
Well, this will test how good he is as a driver as well, because Brenham's been phenomenal all this season. If Amundsen can hold him off, this is fantastic to see around this circuit at the moment. Brenham so far not able to get through, although Amundsen just looks like he's a little wider at the apex than he wanted to be through there. Now into this section of corners where you're not really going to see Brenham go up the inside. Has to set him up through here for the next straight he gets, and it's not going to be this one either unless Amundsen makes a mistake. He has a little look, or is that him just not on as much of the curb? I believe he's just not on as much of the curb as that of Amundsen. Through this next pot, can he go up the inside into the final corner? I do think Amundsen's got his car set up more for a straight line than what he has through the corners. You just saw him be able to pull away slightly in that straight line area than what Brenham did. And Amundsen, well, he's going to call it for a pit stop. 25 seconds mandatory. Get it slowed down for that pit board. Indeed he does. It is only an extra 5 seconds for that change of tyres. So that's going to be the interesting thing. Who loses 5 seconds in the pits to maybe put on a fresh set of tyres? This is early from Amundsen for me. Is that what he's doing? Has he just maybe put the wrong set of tyres on at the beginning of this race and one set is a little older than the other?
Yeah, who knows? The point is he's gone for an undercut though, so it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that gap, particularly to the leader of Cruz. The other one to keep very much an eye on is going to be if Brenham can now close that gap to Cruz as well, because he's got clean air in front of him in a way, as Amundsen has pitted. Let's keep a look at that and see what happens. But looking at the action here that we are riding on board with, Odegaard Stewart, he's looking at the back of Odegaard's I believe, is it the Ferrari? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, it's the Ferrari 296.
It is the Ferrari. Lovely, good stuff. And then Solberg, he's slowly being dropping into these guys' clutches. Clearly out struggling in that Bentley. Maybe he did go a bit too hard trying to get past Fernando early on.
He was going very hard, wasn't he? And he was going really, really trying to make an attack work. He then made a couple of mistakes, didn't he, that we saw. So has he done something to tyres? Has he just made a mistake? And you know how drivers can get, some drivers as well. When you make that 1 or 2 silly mistakes of your own error, you kind of start to get in your own head, maybe overdrive the car a little bit. I mean, these guys are brilliant drivers, so I'm sure that they all know each little bug that they have and know how to sort that out. Peterson is in the pit lane. That is from 11th place, so he's just gone a lap down to the leaders as well. He's obviously in for his pit stop. Cruzo now 1.8 clear of Brenham, so has really put his foot down. Solberg straight in. He normally goes late, so this is a surprise, possibly for tyres.
Yeah, it would only indicate to me that he did go too hard, trying to get past Fernando early on. And I can't blame him for it, because if he got past him, there was a good chance he might be able to get onto the back of that lead group. So I would have done the exact same thing in his position. It's fair enough, but I think he might pay the price a little bit for it, but hopefully that undercut will work still. Either way, let's see how that one works, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in regards to Amundsen here. He's just coming around the final corner now. I wonder what his gap will be in relation to Solberg. It was, what was it, about 5 seconds behind maybe?
Oh, I think a little further than that as well. So that is Peterson coming out the pit lane, and there is Solberg still in the pits. And the pit entry here is an awkward one, because it really, just as you're coming out the exit of turn one, the pit exit sort of feeds onto that curb. So you've got to make sure that you time it right. And well done there for Peterson to make sure that he acknowledged the blue flags and stayed right out the way of the car coming through. This is Erdegaardsten then. Looks like he's just creeping ever so slowly onto the back of Erdegaard here. And that McLaren just looking a little stronger. I'm going to say we're in the evening time of this race, because the sun does look like it's setting. So them temperatures will be dropping as well, as we're just seeing that Brennan was 3 tenths quicker than Cruz. And Fernando reacting to that Solberg pit stop.
I've got to imagine it's a reaction. The gap was pretty close between the two. Solberg's now going to get that undercut. It's just a matter of how big is that undercut going to be. and obviously he will have slightly warmer, better rubbered-in tyres after that extra lap. So it'll be interesting when Fernando comes out of the pit, if we might see an immediate attack by Solberg.
Yeah, it is going to be interesting. Here, though, is Erdegaardson right on the back of Erdegaard now. This is Solberg, who is coming towards, I believe, the last couple of corners on the circuit. Yeah, 3 corners left. Fernando still in that pit lane. Interesting to see when he goes ready for pit exit here. And with 12 cars, you're not really down the pit lane too much. You all pretty much are near the exit. But here comes Solberg then, around that final corner. Pit lane limiter not yet gone. As Armandson goes past him, the McLaren is moving in the pit lane, so he's coming off the limiter now. Here comes Fernando. Solberg will be at full speed coming down the start-finish straight. Has Solberg's undercut worked an absolute treat? Through he goes. There is Fernando. Well, one thing it has done, Ashley, is it's put him closer to Fernando than what he was before his pit stop after a few mistakes. The interesting thing here, if it's put him that little bit closer to Fernando, what about Armandson when he comes to Cruz? Cruz is going to have to go really long to overcut and negate that of Armandson's pit stop. Norgard now into the pit lane as we're approaching the halfway stage of this race. 31 minutes to go. And yeah, cracking day of racing already here at Valencia. And now the strategy starting to take place.
Yeah, definitely coming into play now. I will say Amundsen, though, last time out, matching the pace of Cruz out front. So in terms of, advantages or not, they're about the same. It's pretty identical. What's going on here?
Yeah, what is going on here? Nordberg's into the pits. Here comes Erdegaardson on the back of Erdegaard. Nielsen as well, still in the pit lane. And is he just lost? He's lost a bit of time, hasn't he, to Erdegaard there? He's actually not as close to the Ferrari as what he was a moment ago.
It does look as that was the case. I did wonder when I looked back at the actual action as opposed to the timing tower. I was like, oh, what have I just missed? But no, yeah, you're quite right. The gap did seem to be slightly larger, but not by an awful lot. As back on board with the leaders, Cruz and Brenham. The gap has closed slightly, 1.2 it is. I wonder if Brenham is able to close up a little bit more on this lap. It certainly looks a bit closer as they round turn 14, the final corner of the circuit. Cruz is in, Brenham stays out.
Yep, Cruz in, Brenham out at this stage of the race. So an interesting part of this race to see who's going to be able to do what. Now we get to see Armandson. I was just about to say that Armandson had actually done a personal best lap on his previous lap as he crossed the line. So this is really going to be an interesting fight to see what drivers can do. If I manage to find the little... oh no, in fact that hasn't been updated with Valencia on it, so I can't actually tell you how long it is, how much of the lap you lose around this circuit, because it's only got up to Watkins Glen. It doesn't actually have Valencia on it, so that's a shame. Either way, we'll get to find out where Armandson comes out in relation to Cruz. Erdegaardson has pitted now as well, so he's in for his stop and see what he can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Here we go then, through turn 13 and now dropping down for 14. Armandson tucking it in nicely to the apex, clipping him. Well, he's using all the runoff he wants to as well. It's looking really nice and clean. Like we said, fastest lap, last lap around. What's it going to be this time? Not as quick, but still pretty, well, getting it there. Oh, look, there he is.
He is. He's going to jump him, and Armandson, the undercut works for Armandson, and Cruz losing out due to going long. He either had to go longer or maybe pit around the same time, but he hasn't covered off Armandson, who jumps Cruz in the pits then. And now you have to fear for Brenham, who has been undercut by the pair of them at this stage of the race. Is Brenham going to go so deep that he cancels out that overcut? But Armandson here takes the lead of this race in great fashion. And look at Solberg all over the back of Fernando now. So the pit strategy's really playing key here. And if these two have gone onto fresh tyres as opposed to Fernando and Cruz, well, these two could really be sat in a pound seat. Brenham now reacts to Cruz and he pits.
Yeah, rightly so. I think it's the sensible thing. You don't want to lose too much time to your rivals on track. Odegaard in as well. So he was fighting with Odegaard Stewart before he pitted. But Solberg here, he's right on the back of Fernando still, and it feels like we're having a repeat of what we saw in the early stages of this race. Just over the halfway mark now, and these two still going at it quite fierce as well.
The problem for Solberg,
Cruz and Amundsen,
is he doesn't want to go through them tyres if he did change them quickly again. He wants to be able to mount that challenge, gain that extra place and just take his time.
Yeah, you're right. I think what you need to think about now is ultimately what the position you're going to be in at the end of the race. We're over the halfway mark. You now need to start thinking about where you are going to finish. And so to me, what would be going through my mind
Nordberg's
is,
jumped Brenham.
all right.
Apologies, Nordberg has jumped Brenham. So Brenham is now a net 4th place. Cruz hasn't, Westergaard hasn't pitted yet, but Nordberg has jumped Brenham by some margin in this pit stop. So Brenham has been jumped by Nordberg and is now sat net P4 when Vestergaard comes into the pit lane.
That's got to be a tyre change, isn't it?
Has to be. Has to be a tyre change. I can't think of anything else it could be. He's lost. And he's not like he's on the back of Nordberg. He is some distance behind Nordberg.
Yeah, you're quite right. That's the front 3 right there. You've just seen the front 2 go out of the camera shot, but Nordberg not far behind them at all. And now we're getting back to the action with Solberg and Fernando. Maybe I can continue with what I was going on about.
Apologies.
No. It's crucial to get. But Solberg, he even needs to make a decision. Try and get the move done now. If you can't do it, set yourself a target. If you don't do it in a couple of laps, all right, back off, stay behind, and go for a last mounted attack towards the closing stages of the race. That's sort of the options you've got to weigh up here.
Yeah, just nice and patient and bide your time as you go through. So big news that Brenham has been jumped by Nordberg here, and really for the championship leader, I'm going to say that took him a little bit by surprise. Look at Nordberg there, a 30.4 personal best for him and for Cruz in this race. Obviously, Brenham's lap will not be reflective because it's his out lap from the pit lane, but I did not see that coming for Brenham. Brenham's reacted to Cruz and has lost out to Nordberg, so he either hasn't had the fuel on board to go as long into the race as maybe he should have done. But yeah, either way, Amundsen leads this race. Nordberg's jumped Brenham, and Cruz is now once the hunted, now the hunter. And he has to try and chase down Amundsen. But 25 minutes left to go in this race. There's still plenty of time at that kind of a gap to do something about it. They're also gaining on Vestergaard, who is yet to pit. He is there putting a lap on a driver, so they're coming up to a bit of traffic here.
I can't imagine it'll really affect them too much. We found out last week the blue flags, they don't have to jump out the way like in some series, but you sort of the leaders have the oh god, I'm trying to get the word out, I do apologise. They have the responsibility to get past safely, so providing the lapped cars just don't fight it ridiculously, then no problems. They don't have to immediately leap out the way. You might even see them let them through here at turn 1, turn 2, but are they fighting?
Well, Vestergaard is the leader. He is not a lapped car. He is the race leader. He is yet to pit. He's trying to lap the Bentley, who has not let him through, which I'm very surprised he didn't let him through there. But Vestergaard is technically your race leader at the moment, so doesn't have any blue flags to obey to.
Well, he doesn't have to then jump out the way, like you just said. But equally, that Bentley's not doing it either, which is quite interesting. No, I thought maybe he would have moved.
Oh, Vestergaard's gone deep, and you just wonder, is that because of the Bentley in front? Is he just staying out the way, knowing this isn't his fight? Well, the Bentley should have jumped out the way, but Vestergaard, I feel, more ran wide and had Cruz and Brenham come up the inside than anything else there, and couldn't hook back into his racing line. So now the Bentley, who had blue flags this entire lap at the moment, and he's not yielding to the leaders. He's gone a little deep now. Brenham's going to tuck in, and oh my days, the Bentley's had a twitch, and now blocks out of Cruz coming through this next section. So the blue flags really getting in the way. Cruz thinking, nah, I'm going straight up the inside. I'm not wasting any time. I am not losing out to Amundsen anymore. But they've lost a chunk of time to Nordberg and to Brenham. I don't think it's hurt him too bad, though.
No, and look at this. Solberg's got past Fernando.
He has.
So, in all of that unfolding, we've got a change. Solberg has managed to make the move on Fernando and is now ahead. Well, what is going to be interesting are the lap times going to come down for him, because he's been very quick and racy. Are they going to reflect in his lap time as well?
And that's probably one of the biggest sighs of relief from Solberg there, as Vestergaard into the pit lane. And I'm not quite sure who that is. Is that Nielsen into the pits? P4 or car 4, it was saying on his chat. So I'm not sure who that is in the pits. It's not saying anybody else is in the pit lane. So might be Nielsen I'm not 100% sure. But either way, Amundsen takes control of this lead, as well as Cruz from Norberg, from Brennan, from Solberg, your top 5. But Brennan still some 5 seconds off the back of Norberg at the moment.
Yeah, that's going to be quite a gap to close. I'd imagine it will start to really tumble down in the closing stages. We can only think that he has changed the tyres, and so that he has that fresher rubber. And at the moment, the rest of them, if they didn't change the tyres, probably not too big a difference. But as this race wears on longer and longer, that advantage will definitely fall back towards Brennan, and you should see him closing in and sort of hunting his prey like a shark in water. But yeah, at the moment,
problem I think with that actually at the moment is he's not making the inroads now, and I think that's the alarming thing for him. Is it's not happening at the moment for him. Where we saw with the Bentley a few races ago, it happened straight away. So yeah, it's just going to be a case of keeping an eye on that timing screen and seeing what the gap comes down to as we go sector to sector.
Yeah, you're quite right, and I think you said earlier as well that the tyres can easily do the hour. So it's just going to be a question of how much of an advantage will he gain by pitting and putting a fresh set on, or has he just given up P3 really quite freely to Norberg? Because Norberg's no slouch around here. He's been very much on it in terms of pace, a couple of tenths slower on average, but he's not going to be easy to pass.
No, he's not. And there you've just seen the lap times, 30.9, 30.8. I think Nordberg was the fastest with a 30.3 or something like that, not sure. And then Brennan did a 30.6. So if he is on fresh rubber, he isn't making it count at the stage of the race. Cruz is all over the rear wing of that of Amundsen and for the lead of this race. And this is absolutely fantastic stuff from these guys. It really is going to be an interesting battle to the end. We've got, just over 20 minutes left in this race. And you have to feel here that for Amundsen, he's kind of doing what Cruz did. Although, does he look a little bit more defensive than what Cruz was?
I think you're right in that. He does look a bit more defensive in his driving, but that could also be he knows that maybe Cruz does have a little bit of an edge in terms of outright pace. So he needs to cover him off potentially. And that's probably what is allowing Norberg to actually not really drop off and to stick with these guys as well. At the moment, it's hard to judge, because we've only been watching it for a few laps. Can't really see if there is a big advantage or not, but Cruz is looking very close here.
He's looking very close, and Norberg gains a good 2 to 3 tenths over the two in front. Cruz pulls out, no thinks better of it this time around. What's Brennan's lap time? There you go, 30.3, personal best for Brennan in this race. Not enough to really be getting onto the back with under 20 minutes to go now, but still enough at this moment to just be doing what he needs to do. And Cruz now starting to mount an attack, and really this has been coming now for a couple of laps, hasn't it?
It has. I think it's going to be inevitable. Looking at Cruz's lines, he's very much squaring off the corner, sort of running it deep, turning in quite aggressively, and then trying to straight line it out. You can see the difference in what these two in front are doing from Norberg's point of view here. Cruz, just trying to get a good exit and make sure he does straight line that car as much as possible, because then he can get alongside Amundsen and actually try and mount an attack.
Yeah, he can try and mount an attack. This is going to be really fascinating to keep our eyes on as we go through this last 19-18 minutes of this race. Norberg really starting to close in on the front two now. Brennan's got the gap down to 6.9, so it seems to be updating as we go through lap after lap on the timing tower. So keep your eyes on that. 6.9 is the gap. You're seeing the sparks flying as the sun sets here in Valencia. Solberg not massively pulled away from Fernando, has he? That gap still looks like it's 2 tenths. And over the curb comes Norberg now. We'll be getting that double hole being punched in the air almost as they come down the start line. What's the lap times going to be for the drivers? And just to see the difference, 31 dead, 31.0, 30.4. So Norberg gained 6 tenths of a second on that previous lap. Brennan's pumped in another PB, only 2 tenths quicker than Norberg. And Solberg, look, he's got past Fernando, but hasn't pulled away from Fernando. So that pace that we thought could he bring down to match the leaders, I mean, don't get me wrong, matched Amundsen and Cruz last time around, but I don't think as electric as what we maybe anticipated it would be.
I don't think he was going to set the world on fire. I think we can agree on that, but I think he
Yeah.
had the pace of the leader because he's just matched them that last lap, and he's actually half a second, faster than Fernando. So I think what Fernando's actually benefiting from here is that he's just able to sit in the slipstream of the guy now in front. So rather than being the chasee, he becomes the chaser. And I always find it's a bit easier when following someone because you can pick your braking zones a bit easier by just following the car in front. So you tend to begin to match their pace. So I think that's what Fernando is getting the benefit of here. Solberg has a better outright pace, and Fernando just following him.
Yeah, Fernando is just following at the moment in this one so far. I'm going to be so interested to see what happens here because we're last 16 minutes, and now it's 3 for the lead. Norberg is right on the back of Amundsen and Cruz at the moment. And again, lap times here are going to be crucial to see. 30.9, 30.9, 30.8. They are matching each other as they come to the line. What about Brenham? Because this is now actually the stage of the race where Brenham, if he changed tyres, switch them on, make them work. You've got about 10 minutes. You need to be on the back of these in 10 minutes time to give yourself 7 minutes to maybe make up them places. You want as much time as possible in hand.
Yeah, you're quite right. Exactly. I mean, what is that? If we quickly do the math, sort of 2 laps every 3 minutes, you're going to get 6 laps in about 10 minutes. If you're gaining half a second a lap, roughly, what's that? 6 times 5, 3 seconds? Still not enough, is it? And then that gives you 7 minutes left. Yeah, bit of maths for you all, but to me, that doesn't quite add up. And it's not going to be enough. He's going to have to do a bit more.
He's got to go some. He has got to go some as Brenham now. And the only thing that he can hope for is Amundsen really starts to drive defensive and it really starts to hold these guys up. You're seeing the lights taking a bit more effect than the daylight. Cruz really getting close. Great race for Cruz and Amundsen and Norberg today in a series which Brenham has dominated so far in terms of the races. For these guys to bounce back here and put on such a display has been fantastic.
Yeah, it's normally these 3 battling behind Brenham, so it really is a change of scenery because this is the battle for the lead. Brenham is 4th and chasing, but you know there's still 15 minutes left. A lot can change. Brenham is closing in lap after lap. Let's see if he can up his pace to really bring that gap down. But yeah, I think these guys are probably not laughing in their chairs, but they've definitely got a big smile on their face because this is for the win.
Yeah, this is for the win, and this is where it's really going to count. This is what helps them, finish 2nd or 3rd in the championship, maybe even still challenge Brenham into that final race of the season. Solberg now with a 31.4, matching that of Fernando. So their pace just dropping off the lead as Erdegaard matching them as well. But Cruz getting so close to the back of Amundsen there, coming through in towards its middle part of the lap. Norberg still with them as well. And he at one stage, let's not forget, before the round of pit stop, started to drop off the back of the front 3. So that's how well he's done, Norberg, since the pit stops. He's got back onto the front 3. He is a part of that front 3. And it is a second separating the top 3, 5.6 to Brenham as they come now in towards the final sector, of the lap. And really, it's just going to be an interesting fight now because Cruz for me actually is in a difficult position. You see this in the British touring cars, you see it at GT racing. You want to attack, but you also have one eye on that mirror. And you kind of have to have one eye on the guy in front, one eye in the mirror. What's Norberg going to do? What am I going to do to Amundsen? As he's maybe having a look here later on the brakes. No, just that different line showing his nose to Amundsen there.
I think that was an attack, but just realised he was never going to get late enough on the brake to get down the inside because that's not the line you would normally take, but it's not going to cost you anything having a little look at it.
Fernando's
but yeah, this is a freeway battle for the lead.
Apologies, Fernando has just got back ahead of Solberg, so that's exchanged again. So Solberg, has he just chewed through them tyres? He's not had the race here tonight.
I wonder if it's just a trait of the Bentley and maybe the McLaren is slightly more better. Oh, here we go.
Here we go indeed. Cruz has managed to get up the inside of that of Brenham. And now they defend. And a bit of a tap on the rear from Amundsen. Sorry, not Brenham, on the back of Cruz. Norberg couldn't take advantage of them both. But Cruz has managed to get ahead. And surely that was a bit of planning to see where Amundsen was weak. And now Cruz is in front of Amundsen. And that's the kind of fighting that Brenham will need to get onto the back of this front 3. Norberg couldn't take advantage here. But a great move. And Amundsen, I tell you what, a little aggressive again, trying to get back past him as Cruz had already defended the inside line.
Yeah, last lap, Brenham actually gained about a second. or thereabouts. And I think with that kind of fighting, he's probably going to gain he's going to gain that or thereabouts the same again. Keep an eye on that gap, 4.6 it is. But these guys out front still going at it. Norberg, he's going to probably want to try and make a move very soon as well. But Cruz ahead, back into the lead. And there's a bit of daylight between him and Amundsen already.
And I was just about to say, did Cruz possibly change tyres? Is that why he maybe got an undercut? Because Amundsen pitted 2 or 3, maybe even 4 laps before Cruz came in. So did Cruz lose them extra 5 seconds to just maybe change tyres in this race? I'm not going to say so, but he has put a bit of daylight between them. So clearly having that bit extra pace, and Amundsen just not at this stage of the race having that pace. 12 minutes left, or under 12 minutes left to go now. Brennan within 3.8, so again took a good chunk, a good 0.8 of a second out of them all in that last sector, in that last lap, should I say.
Well, maybe we can ask them after the race if any of them want to have a little bit of a chat with us. It'd be great to get a bit of an insight into this one, because it has been a good race for strategy on the track, but also in the pit lane as well, because everyone's been differentiating their strategies just a little bit here, and it has put on a good show. But even with all of that, the front 3/4, because Brennan right there, very close indeed, potentially going to make this a 4-way battle once again. There's still very little to separate them.
Yeah, Norberg really had a look there up the inside as Amundsen just a little wide off the apex. So is he just starting to struggle at this stage of the race? He's now defending from Norberg, and this is really dragging Brennan onto the back of him. And you have to say for Amundsen, great drive today. Now just starting to struggle at this latter part of the race. Cruz is gone, although Amundsen has better confidence through that part of the circuit than Norberg does, who was really right up the rear wing and is now not close enough. If he'd have stayed that close at this part of the lap, you feel he may have mounted a challenge into turn 1. Whoever that is in the McLaren, staying right out the way. They do not want a part of that as the 4 leaders come through. And not sure what Norberg's doing there, but he kind of pulled out the dirty air for a brief moment.
Yeah, just a tad. I'm not quite sure what he's doing. I don't think it's going to cool your tyres down by any means, and I'm pretty sure the engines don't really have any issue in this. Back here to Fernando Solberg. The gap, well, stayed relatively stable since Fernando's been ahead here. Solberg following. I think this could be a repeat very much of what we saw in the early stages of this race. Solberg seems to be succumbing to a bit of tyre wear issues, but he did get past for a moment, and Fernando retook it.
He did indeed. Erdegaard's here then off the back of Erdegaard. He hasn't been able to catch back up at the end of this, which is a shame, because that was developing into a nice little battle as well, wasn't it, at the start, the first stint, should I say, of this race. But Cruz with that second gap. Brenham down to 3.6, only gained that 0.2. Now there wasn't a lot of fighting happening, so interesting to see there from him.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like that gap is closing though. But he has only got 10 minutes left in this race. If he can get to the back of them, though, then race back on for him to try and take a podium. But, everyone says it is one thing to get onto the back of them, and then you've got to make the move as well, which is, of course, the harder thing to do. 3.6 is currently the gap from Brenham to the leader. Let's see what it will be when they cross the start-finish line now. Cruz 139, 131, 138, 137. Not a lot to separate them, really, is there?
Not a lot to separate them at all. And Brenham again, just another 0.3. It's not enough with 9 minutes to go. You really have to hope that Norberg and Amundsen really start mounting an attack, as Norberg, they're just going a little wide of the apex and nearly tapping the back of Amundsen. These two getting very close. Cruz, by the way, now, well, he's in control, you have to say the least.
Yeah, he seems to have very much control of this race now. He's got past Amundsen. That was crucial and key, and now he's just he's put his right hand, I think, on the top step, getting ready to climb up, but still needs to reach that checker flag. Still a bit to go, but at the moment it'd be very hard to bet against him, as Norberg looking pretty racy at this point, and Amundsen does seem to be struggling a little bit. Of course, that gap has been growing, and Norberg been able to stick with him very well, considering earlier on in this race was struggling a little bit for pace, but in this latter half, he's been right on it.
Yeah, and I suppose that's been the difference, hasn't it, in this race at the moment, is we're seeing what Norberg can do the first part of the race before the pit stops, he just dropped off the back, didn't really have enough in the tank. He looks closer to Amundsen, so this time compared to a couple of laps ago, is he going to be able to mount a slipstream down the start-finish straight as he comes towards the start line now? Amundsen just looks like he's struggling. It's that a part of the race, or he's matching back with Cruz. Excuse me, Norberg not as quick, and only Brenham gaining another 10th, in fact only hundredths over the leaders that time around. I don't think Brenham's got enough time in this race. We're fast approaching 53 minutes, giving us 7 minutes left in this race. Don't forget, the end of the race is when the leader crosses the line before the timer runs out. So wherever the leader is when the timer runs out, that will be the last lap. For these guys, I think they've got enough in hand. Brenham needs these two to fight hard, because I don't think he's got enough to get on the back. What is it? 1.8 Norberg off the back of Cruz. Brenham's 3.3. That's about a second and a half off the back of Norberg. He isn't finding that.
At the moment, no. He's struggling to find it. He's running out of time. It is crunch time now. Pressure's on. He needs to put in the laps and really gain on these guys again, or he really needs these guys to have a good old ding-dong battle. We may see it in the closing minutes, because Norberg, if he can get second, he'll be very, very happy with that. He'll take it quite gladly. At the moment, still sitting on a podium. Don't want to throw that one away, of course, as well. But, in the closing stages of races, people sometimes do silly things. It's whether you can keep your head on your shoulders and keep your patience and wits about you. But he's in good position. He's in a brilliant position to try and make this move. It's whether he can find the gap to go for it. There you go. Down towards turn number 1. I think Amundsen might have actually taken that a little bit, well, not as good as Norberg did. He closed it slightly. Not enough though, of course, but he is right on the rear bumper. Now towards turn 4. Like we say earlier, there's not many positions in this middle part of the circuit to make a move. But if you can get a good exit out of 6, which is the next corner coming up now, there's a chance maybe towards 8.
I think he lost a bit coming out of 5. He seemed to have a bit of a moment on the car, seemed to just lose a bit of ground. This is, again, another crucial part of the lap to get right, to make sure that you can get close. And look how close he gets under the brake there on the back of Amundsen, and well, it's just hampered him on the exit a little bit there, and this is what's going to be bringing Brenham into this. 55 minutes on the clock. By the time we get to the start line, I reckon we're going to be around that 56-minute mark. There is Brenham. So really now Brenham may be starting to sniff that podium opportunity. The problem, like you said a moment ago, is catching's one thing, passing's another. That's where Norberg is struggling tonight, though. That little chicane section.
Yeah, it's costing him all the time. But at the moment, the slipstream effect is somewhat saving him down this straight. It is so long. The effect is quite powerful here because it is a long straight, and so it's saving him. He's able to stick with the car in front. The question is now going to be, he's got Brenham very much on his rear bumper. Is that going to be too much for him to handle, and will he lose this podium, or will he be able to hang on to it at least for the last sort of 4 minutes to go now? But Amundsen's doing everything he needs to do, and I think Cruz has very much just checked out.
Yeah, he has just checked out in this race, and I don't think we're going to see Cruz again here. I can't see a world in which it goes wrong from him this late on in the race. He's absolutely done a terrific job so far, and he just needs to keep it going in what he's doing at this moment in this race. But so far so good for Cruz. Amundsen now really feeling the pressure of Norberg and Brenham. Fernando's managed to pull away from Solberg. Ødegaard in 7th, Ødegaard Stun in 8th, Alksland 9th, Vestergaard P10, Pettersson is in 11th with Nielsen down in 12th. This though is a three-way battle for 2nd, 3rd and 4th with all them three on your screen now. So this is really going to be an absolutely interesting fight. It really is nail-biting stuff here at the last, 3 minutes 20 seconds of this race. There's about 2 laps after this left to go. But who will do what and who will be where? That time Norberg looks a lot better through the chicane.
Yeah, that did look a lot cleaner. You talk about nail-biting stuff. Whenever I get a nice pause, I can tell you where my hands are. They're around my mouth because I'm getting nervous at this point.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, yeah. Only a few laps to go now. 57 minutes gone. Only 3 minutes left. And once Cruz reaches that checker flag. Obviously, race is done and no more positions can be gained or lost. At the moment, Amundsen's still second, Norberg third, but he's got Brennan breathing down his neck. And we do think that Brennan did go for that tyre change at the pit stop. So you would imagine and think he's got some fresher rubber underneath him. Might enable him to go for a move a little bit easier on Norberg. Does seem to be struggling through a couple of these corners, but that slipstream effect still saving him at the moment, because Amundsen is still doing enough to stay ahead of Norberg, but Brennan very much hot on his heels.
Brennan is hot on his heels, and this is what's going to be fantastic at the moment, is can Brennan get past? He's got what? This lap, maybe another after this one. And then we're going to see what Brennan can do. But if he wants to mount an attack, he needs to mount an attack now. And really has to get a move on. Look at him just take a wider berth over Amundsen and Norberg into this corner. Brennan's got it all to play for here in this podium, hasn't he? He's obviously won the first 3 races, so he's sat pretty in the championship at the moment. We just await to see what these guys can do as they bounce over that dip where the curbs just stop and then restart again. Now in towards that final corner, which will start... 58.30 on the clock. Cruz hasn't crossed the line yet, so this will be, I do believe, the final lap of this race. 1:31. So Cruz starts the last lap. It's now or never for Brennan. It's now or never for Norberg to get that P2. It is game on here at Valencia.
Yep, we could see sparks flying very shortly. I think Brennan might have been sort of sizing him up where he's weak that previous lap, because he wasn't dropping off, but wasn't close enough to mount a move. And now he really does need to exploit any weaknesses that he potentially found on that previous tour, as they now make their way through turn 5, up the hill to 6, and then on the short back straight through 7 and into 8. It's so close that you can't really separate these guys. It's going to be a last minute move, isn't it, if there is going to be one?
Oh, indeed. You can throw a blanket over these three and enjoy a nice picnic on it. As Norberg now starting to defend. That's going to help Amundsen. Brennan, though, just trying to maybe have a look and tuck underneath. He can't find the move there. In towards this middle section now, coming up in towards the latter part of this lap. Can Brennan manage to make one move? And he's only got the final corner to do so. Cruz, though, 2.8 seconds out front. What a drive from him. Poor pit stop, jumped in the pits, but it looks like it's going to come back well. And at the minute, it is going to be that of probably Amundsen for second place, because Norberg hasn't do it, but he's cruised to victory. Alan Drake Cruz, at 12 years of age, wins here at Valencia. What a great drive from the young man. Amundsen will hang on to second from Norberg, from Brennan, in what has been an absolutely fantastic race. We then head back to P5. Fernando, he's had a great scrap all night with the Bentley of that of Solberg, and he's managed to come out on top in this one. 5th for him and 6th for Solberg. But what a race, Ashley, from the top 4.
Yeah, great stuff to watch. And it was interesting to see Brennan closing that gap down in those closing stages. Like we said earlier, I didn't think it was going to be enough. And it just about wasn't. But what a thrilling finish to this race, because it could have gone either way. It was one of those things, like you say, you could throw a blanket over the 3 of them. Any of them could have came out on top. Just a few drivers left. Axelin here riding on board with in his Mercedes through the last few corners. He's had a bit of a tricky evening, hasn't he, Axelin? That Mercedes, I don't think, was very well suited to this circuit. You can see there, even on the final corner, a little bit of a wobble on the exit, up to the checkered flag. He finishes 9th.
P11 for Petterson. Great to see the Lamborghini across lines. Apologies, I did answer your question. I was chatting to myself on mute after I had a bit of a cough. So I was answering your question. I wasn't ignoring. But I can't now remember what you've asked. But Petterson, P12. Westergaard come across for 11th. Nielsen, P13. But what a night's worth of racing. We head, though, to the Red Bull Ring next week to end this season finale in what is going to be a dramatic race, dramatic ending to this season, dramatic race. We're hoping for an absolute belter of a race, and we've not had any weather come to play, so I wonder if weather could take part in the next one. That could play a bit of havoc there. Either way, fantastic night's worth of racing. We are just going to give it a minute or two to see if we can get a few drivers in for an interview. But Ashley, sum up that race for us. Give us a final word for that race, if you will.
One word or a sentence?
A sentence.
Sentence. Oh, I mean, it was titillating to the end.
Indeed it was. We can speak with Elias Fernando. Let's get him into the commentary box. Fernando, Elias, welcome to the commentary box. P5 tonight in the race. It was a good race from yourself in a good fight with the Bentley.
Yeah, definitely. Really happy with the results, and definitely one of my, I don't know, maybe best races so far.
Didn't quite have the pace to match the front four, but that didn't stop your entertainment, did it?
No, definitely not.
Just talk us through the McLaren here, because we saw the Bentley look like it had a bit more of you in the straight line, but you managed to be a bit stronger through the corners. Do you feel that you was just a bit quicker than the Bentley tonight?
Yeah, he made some mistakes, so and I didn't really make that many mistakes, so I definitely gained time on that. And yeah, he was really fast on the straights. He was just flying past me almost sometimes, but yeah.
And last, well, I say two questions left really. Red Bull Ring next week. What can you do around there first of all?
I don't know. It's a long time since I've driven there, but usually I've been not that fast compared to other tracks. But yeah, hopefully some practice will make it a little bit better, so I can be more competitive like today.
Well, we hope to see that. Anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
No, I don't know really.
Well, we'll let you get back to it. Congratulations tonight, and we shall speak to you hopefully next time out.
Thank you. Bye.
Ashley, I'll let you take the next one. Who do you fancy?
I'll take Amundsen actually. I'd like that one.
Let's get him here. There you go.
Hello, Amundsen. How would that go for you? First of all, how are you feeling after that one?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. It was a nice one. I told you guys it was going to be a battle for this one. So yeah, I had a good race pace in the first stint. I was noticing the tires and thinking I was going to do another strategy than the rest of the guys. So I pitted a little bit earlier, but we catch up to the guys that didn't have pitted yet, and unfortunately I got the 3 seconds of rear damage and starting losing control of my rear tires there. So that's why Alan had the pace and the tires to be a little bit quicker.
Gotcha. So went for the undercut, and then of course later on in the race, struggling a little bit more for the tyres. I mean, was there a point in that race you thought maybe you could have the win over Cruz?
Yeah, I felt quite confident until we catched up with the other guys and got some rear damage. The car felt good for at least 5-6 laps, and after that the rear end started sliding more and more. And same with the braking zones, a little bit more unstable car, but in the end it was I was losing like a tenth, maybe 2 on the lap, and I hoped to defend a little bit more than what happened here, but it is what it is, and we had a good race at least.
Yeah, certainly put on a good performance. Obviously, closing stages, you had Norberg very much on your rear bumper. Were you worried you might lose another position?
No, he was fighting for the position, but at the same time we had a car behind him, so he has to defend and also try and overtake, and then it's not going to happen more or less unless you really send it. And I had a pace out of the corners, and he was a little bit quicker in, so I knew it was the couple of tenths that was enough for me to stay clear and take the P2.
Yeah, certainly did, and it was a good performance to watch either way. So congratulations on that one. Looking forward to next week at the Spielberg circuit, Austria.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't driven that one much in the BMW. I know at least Brennan is really strong there. And Alan is going to be strong, and Norberg is going to be strong, so yeah, it's going to be a tight one there too, I believe. But hopefully I have to do some practice for next week and do a setup for the track, because I haven't driven it in the Beamer yet.
No worries. Sounds like you hopefully will take the fight to Brennan once again. Congratulations on today. Is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, I'd like to thank the team and the other BMW drivers for helping me with setups and stuff like that, Brennan and Norberg. and West Competition Racing for always being there to help us.
Brilliant stuff. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, and good luck for next week as well.
Thank you, guys.
And let's grab Norberg in for a quick chat. Nordberg, P3 today, and what was a fantastic race for yourself. You just couldn't get past Amundsen at the end of that race.
No, it was his strategy were a good undercut, but I couldn't get past in the end there. Even though I had more pace.
Great fight though, because it looked like before the pit stops you dropped off the back of the front three a little bit, and then at the end of that race, like you say, was a lot quicker.
Yeah, it's a battle of not getting warnings, so I tried to take it calm and did a lot of mistakes where I have to brake or let go of the gas to not get those warnings. So yeah, the first stint wasn't great.
Talk about your second stint though, because you really did. You managed to jump Brenham in the pit lane, and you really made sure you caught up to the front two, who was having a good little battle.
Yeah, the second stint I was very satisfied with, and Brenham had some fuel issues in the first stint, so he lost a lot on the last lap.
Red Bull Ring next week. What can you do around there?
I think I have decent pace, but it's hard to battle with those three guys, so I'm not sure.
And finally, anybody you'd like to thank tonight?
Yeah, the team mostly, the VCR team.
Yeah. Wow.
Good preparations. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on a P3 tonight. Great result for yourself. We hope to see you back again in the commentary box next week.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thank you.
Enjoy that one, and we'll see you for the Red Bull Ring. Obviously, back-to-back races going into the Red Bull Ring. We've got Alan in the interview room now. I'm not sure who Alan is, and we also have Solberg. So, Ashley, who's your pick?
I was thinking Alan would be Cruz.
Yes, there you go. Thank you.
Well, I'll tell you what then. You've done Norberg as well. I'll leave you for the race winner. I'll take Solberg, and we'll try and get his view on what happened.
Oh, there we go.
Hello. Solberg. Yeah, well done tonight. Put on a good show for us. Talk us through how your race went.
I don't know. Not too happy, honestly. I kind of happened to end up behind the McLaren at the start. That kind of stopped me from doing what I usually do, and that's just being in the draft of the BMW. And so we lost the pack, and then I cooked the tires. Not too much preparation for me this weekend or this race. I kind of just loaded fuel onto a quali setup, and that didn't work out at all.
No worries, but yeah, clearly having a good battle with the McLaren for pretty much the entire race. You did, of course, get past at one point. Did you feel maybe you could have defended that, or was it inevitable that maybe he was going to get back past?
Well, I could have definitely defended it. The problem for me was that the little kink chicane kind of thing was pure luck every lap. And I had one bad lap, and then I kind of hit the gravel, and he was past again. And then I didn't have any tires left. But I did have the straight line speed, which is one of the nice things with the Bentley. And then I could have definitely kept him behind, because there's not much, and there's no place to pass here really.
Yeah, it did look like you were struggling to find a spot, but yeah, that straight line was very much in your advantage, in your corner. It's a shame that the tyres couldn't quite hold out. Austria next week, how are you feeling about that one?
Not the most driven track for me. Never tried the Bentley there. Done some Aston, not sure. But it should be a good track for the Bentley in terms of layout. It's a lot of straight line and some high-speed corners, which is where it usually is kind of good.
Yeah, a lot of straight lines, and yeah, hopefully that top speed of the Bentley will show its performance. Feel like maybe you can take it to the front four?
If I can nail the quali, then I should be able better on tires than the BMW, and then so as long as I can stay in the draft, then of course might have something happen.
Sounds good. Look forward to seeing it. Final thing, anyone you'd like to thank this evening?
Maybe the team. which has been helping out. At least the other teammate that's driving the Bentley. It helps having two drivers that can kind of compare data and help out with the setup.
Lovely stuff.
So-
Well, thank you for tonight, and good luck for next week as well.
Thank you.
And that was Solberg there. Then we can bring your race winner in for a quick chat now as well. Alan, well, we've commented on how young you are and how great it is to see just a young driver on the grid, but to take the race win in great fashion, brilliant drive from yourself.
Thank you. That was a bit hard. First, all of these rounds, my strategy hasn't been good. I gone a lap too late, a lap too early, not on the sweet spot. So I was lucky to even have that opportunity on that move. So, yeah.
Yeah, it was a great race. Like you said, you did get jumped in the pit lane.
Yeah.
But you kept that pressure on him, didn't you? And you made sure that you was going to try and keep that pressure on him till the end.
Yeah, of course, because I knew he had the 2-lap older tires than me, and I knew he had to push to be able to jump me. So I knew I had the better tires, had to stay patient, waited for the opportunity, and sent it.
You did send it, indeed. He tried to come back at you as well, though.
Yeah. A little tap there, but talked about it, and I feel like I stayed on my line, and it was just weird physics, so the car went sliding or kind of.
All in all, though, you have to be very happy with how today has gone.
Yeah. Really nice result. Didn't expect the win because Øystein was very, very strong as normal, and yeah.
We head to the Red Bull Ring next week, obviously back-to-back races this time. What can you do around there?
I think I've had a decent pace there, so hopefully I can get the win again. Try to get some good pace, get some good practice, and yeah.
And lastly, anybody you'd like to thank?
Yeah, thank you to Nels and my supportive family.
Well, Alan, congratulations. What a drive from yourself today. Enjoy that one, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
And that then actually brings an end to the interviews for the evening, or well, for the afternoon, should I say evening, because there's nobody else waiting to come in. What a race Valencia has been. We go to Spielberg next week for the race, the final race of the season at the Red Bull Ring. Are you looking forward to this one? Just tell us what you're thinking.
I'm looking forward to it. I wish there was honestly more races in this championship, because each week it's been obviously different with the different circuits, but each week has thrown up a different result. Of course, you've got the main guys out front, which are so consistent with what they're doing, but each week has been a different challenge for them, and it's been brilliant to see how they've handled the pressures and different situations they've got themselves into. And I almost don't want it to end, but all good things unfortunately must come to an end, and I couldn't think of a better place than Austria at Spielberg, to be honest.
Yeah, what a dramatic end it will be as well. We have a brand new race winner in Alan Drake Cruz. It's been absolutely fantastic to see here at Valencia. Great bit of racing, all down to that strategy and them last-minute manoeuvres. But what a day it has been. I believe that is all we have time for this afternoon then, as we head into Red Bull Ring next week for the final race of the season. Join us back here live for the same time as always, where me and Ashley will be bringing you the final action of this championship. Goodbye.